Hi, I'm Meredith Hankins, and welcome to our video module on visual supports. Join us as we discuss the importance of a team approach in effectively supporting your students across their learning journey. We'll also explore various visual supports that can be used with your students in all of their learning environments. This training is a result of a special collaboration between the Alabama State Department of Education Special Education Services, United Ability, and Accessing Potential through Assistive Technology. These agencies have worked tirelessly with professionals from across Alabama to create meaningful learning opportunities designed especially for you. We hope that you gain valuable knowledge that you can bring to your classrooms and support your students across all environments. So let's get started.
Welcome. We are so excited that you're here and that you have chosen this presentation. The title of this presentation is Collaborating Hits the Spot. I am Candace Chapman, and I am a speech-language pathologist at Hoover City Schools.
And I'm Stacy Stone. I'm a physical therapist.
I'm Julie Smith, occupational therapist, also Hoover City Schools.
And we all work together as a team.
So what is SPOT? As you can tell, we've got our shirts on that they show you exactly what the letters are. So for S, S means speech.
And P for physical.
O for occupational.
And T for therapy. Now when I say speech, I do mean speech and language. So we want to make sure we incorporate both of those. Language is receptive and expressive language.
And motor incorporates both gross motor and fine motor, so physical and occupational therapy.
And we need to make sure we include sensory because everybody has some sensory needs. You may click a pencil, you may click a pen, you may shake your knee, but you know how to do that to regulate your sensory needs. Not every student knows how to do that, so that's what we want to incorporate in our SPOT lessons.
And we also incorporate social skills because it's important to be able to incorporate those skills all day long too.
We are fortunate in our school system to have a team of therapists in every school. So you have resources in your school system. If you're in Hoover City Schools, ask in your system if you have those resources available to you.
But it's really important that we work, when we say team, it's not just a therapist. We also are working with the general education teacher, the exceptional education teacher. You know, we are all a part of this. The family members.
Paraprofessionals?
Yes, we are absolutely working together as a team. And so when we're talking about collaborating hits the spot, sure, we've got speech, physical, occupational therapy, but we're also including our general education teachers, our exceptional education teachers, just the whole team that works with that child.
And we are excited to talk to you today about how teachers can incorporate some of the physical, occupational, and speech therapy lessons into their lessons that they already have planned. And so we can work together as a team to incorporate all these ideas to meet all the student needs.
So what we will talk about next is therapy, exceptional education, and classroom collaboration. So our roles in the school. Sometimes therapists, when they work in the school system, they're on an island, they may work by themselves, but we're going to show you today that working together is most beneficial for the student, the therapist, and for the teachers that work with that student. So we may work simultaneously to target skills in our respective areas while working with the student or group of students. Why is collaboration beneficial? Well, it promotes inclusive learning. It supports differentiated instruction. We know that all of our students are different. They need different things. They need different supports. And we are able to provide that differentiated instruction. It also encourages student engagement. So some of our students have difficulties with attention, focus, sensory needs. Well, we are encouraging their engagement in the lesson. It enhances the educational transparency because we are working together, we know what goals they are working on, and we are treating the whole child. And it incorporates a wide range of expertise. We can work together, we learn from each other, and it broadens our professional knowledge. How can educators encourage collaboration? Well, we take initiative. We define our roles, knowing what we do with certain children. We communicate openly with each other so that we learn from each other and know what the student is working on. And we establish a culture of team. We are a team when we are helping our students. And we are open-minded so that we can make sure that we are learning from each other and that not one of our goals are more important than the other.
There are so many benefits to our students for working as a team. It maximizes their therapy time, so they're getting the most out of each therapy session. And it makes it more functional for students so that they can use those daily functional skills in the classroom, which will lead to higher carryover of those skills. And it increases the engagement of the student by working with the therapist and having peers present as well. There are so many benefits to the therapist in this collaboration, so providers can learn from each other. So if, for instance, I might incorporate a communication device into my PT session with a student. That provides learning flexibility on targeting their goals, and it supports behavior management, and it's fun for the student and for the therapist. There are also many benefits for the classroom and for the teachers in that classroom. So it promotes collaboration and a student-centered approach to learning. So the therapist and teachers can work together to provide those unique tools for each student to be successful. And we can learn from other providers and increase sharing with staff. So we can incorporate our PT, OT, and speech therapy skills into their daily lessons in the classroom and help those teachers provide those skills and techniques for those students throughout each school day.
And I think it's just helpful for teachers to see what we do and to see what we're working on so that they can use those things in the classroom where it may be a little foreign if they don't see what's going on when we work with students. So we talk about being ready to learn, and what does that mean? You do that sometimes in your classroom as teachers. You may do something movement before you sit them down. You may not know why you're doing, you just know that it works. So we want our kids to be ready to learn, and we want to put them in a position to be ready to learn. And so that means several things. It can mean positioning.
Yeah, so they want to be in a proper seating where they're supported. They want to use good posture. We want to make sure their chair is the right height and that their feet are flat on the floor so that their feet, knees, and hips are in that 90-90-90 position. And the table needs to be at the right height so they can rest their arms properly for those fine motor skills such as handwriting. So they've got to be in that position and have that good posture to be ready to learn.
Yeah, and it's very difficult if your core is not engaged. It's very difficult to do anything what we call distally. That's down by your hands. If you're loosey-goosey, as we call it, and you're trying to do this, it's hard to keep your hands engaged and to have the strength if your core is not engaged. The other portion of that is sensory. We want to make sure that everybody knows everybody has sensory needs, but everybody may not be able to regulate their sensory needs. So we build this into our SPOT lesson. We put sensory regulation into that so that the child is ready to learn and is in a position to learn. We want to know that sensory processing and sensory integration are the same thing. Depending on how long you've been around, it used to be sensory integration, now it's called sensory processing. They are the same thing. What that means is what you're taking in from your senses, that you're processing all that and you're regulating your body in order to be in a position to learn. So you may not know that there are more than the 5 senses that you learn in school. You're used to hearing vision, taste, smell, touch. You're used to hearing all those, but there are actually 8 senses. We're not going to go into great detail, but I want you to know what the 8 senses are. Touch, taste, smell, vision, hearing, and then there's 3 that are not as familiar. One is vestibular, and that has to do with your inner ear, how you write yourself, how you get yourself in space ready to learn. A lot of kids you see may want to spin a whole lot. They may love to swing. We have to tap into that and use that to put them in a position to be able to learn. Proprioception is a big one for a lot of our kids, it seems. That is heavy work. That is a lot of input. They may need squeezes. You may have a child that leans into you a lot to recognize they need more than we need. So you may want to hug them. You may want to squeeze them. I'll incorporate that a lot to let them ask for that so that they know they need it. Like you may say, do you need a squeeze? They'll know, and then they can learn to tell you that they need that. So it could be cleaning off the board because they're getting some input through their joints that just calms them down. The last one, and pretty not very well known. I don't think that was very good English, but the interoception is not well known, and that's how things come into your brain, you process it, and then you use them. And all of these things help to regulate your sensory system in order for you to be present to learn. And that helps in your classroom, that helps in our SPOT lessons, that helps walking down the hall, in the lunchroom. All of those things are important for that. We want to consider the person, the task, and the environment. The effective collaboration treatment between OTs, PTs, and SLPs lies in integrating sensory strategies into communication and evidence-based strategies to allow individuals to maintain arousal, sustain optimal attention, react with expected emotions and affect, and engage purposefully in action as a response. And that is a quote from Jordan Laughlin in 2013. When a child's sensory system is not regulated, then he or she can't achieve what they need to achieve. We have to think about this because all of us have sensory needs. You may tap your foot. You may click a pencil. Those are all your ability to regulate your sensory needs, but not every child has the ability to regulate his own sensory needs. So we want to make sure we incorporate some sensory things into our therapy so that that child is ready to learn.
So now let's talk about our SPOT lessons and how we collaborate. Let's show you what our thought process was when we did this. So initially, with our SPOT design, we only used it in the functional skills classroom. You may call it a self-contained classroom at your school, or an AAS classroom at your school. They're called different things. But at our school, at Deer Valley, we call it a functional skills classroom. In that classroom, there's 12 students with different abilities, and we started there. We started just, doing OT, PT, and speech. But then we saw some benefits to some of our children in the general education classroom, because we know some of our kids that are in the gen ed classroom, they also need this design. So we started a mini SPOT is what we call it. It only has our speech pathologist and our occupational therapist, but there's 7 students in that classroom. And what we do is we do our mini SPOT lesson. It's the same activities, but we are just incorporating it with different students. So we're going to talk you through this, like what we used, how we did it, the process for developing this. So, of course, we know the research on visual schedules. Just like you go into work every day and you need to know, well, what am I doing at 8? What's happening at 9? What's happening at 10? When do I get my lunch break? When do I get to go home? It's important for our students to know that too, but they may need the visuals just because they may not understand the language that we're trying to teach them. So this is our schedule. We like it on a black background because of the high contrast for some of our students with vision impairments. We start off with our hello song. We've got each visual of what we're doing. We incorporate the students. We let them say, well, what's next? And then once they know, oh, we did our hello song, we are all done. And then it helps them to be engaged and interactive with the schedule and the lesson. So when we're talking about the first thing on our schedule, hello song, what are we working on with the hello song? Well, we have several goals that we're working on with our students when we do the hello song. For example, we're increasing their pragmatic functions, greetings. Hi friend, how are you doing today? Also the social interaction. A lot of times they're not aware that another student is in the room, so that we're trying to help them know, look, there's your friend, say hi to your friend. We're also working on following directions. So when we do the hello song, there's different movements in the song, and we're making sure that they can follow those directions. And of course, we're working on some sensory because we know how important that is for our students to be in an optimal position to learn.
Then we will often do a movement song next, and there are several benefits to the movement song as well. So they get gross motor movement and skills out of that activity. They also learn to follow directions and practice those skills. It works on coordination, and again, those sensory needs are being met.
And not only in the middle of it are we working on gross motor, but like she said, fine motor and sensory, but some of the smaller movements at times are incorporated into those movement songs also.
The next thing that we do on our schedule is a book. I usually use some sort of adapted book with my students, so they're not always a typical book. When I adapt them with different textures for my students who may have visual impairments, or if they have some sensory needs, they can touch the textures. Also, I adapt them with different pictures so that they can participate in the story. Oh, what animal are we talking about next? And I might even make it a higher level skill. I might say, ooh, this next animal, let me tell you about it and see if you can guess what it is. This animal lives in the water and it says quack. What is it? It's a duck. So they're working on different skills with the adapted books. Some other things that we're working on with the Adapt-It book is participation in reading. So we know a lot of our students may not have those pre-literacy skills, so they're actually able to participate in the lesson, in reading, in literacy skills. They may answer some WH questions about the story so that we're making sure that they are comprehending what they're listening to. We might include some inferences just to make it higher level skills. We're increasing their attention and focus. Some students may have a hard time just listening to an entire story, but if we adapt it, it helps to increase their attention and their focus and their engagement. We are also working on following directions because with the pictures I can say, take off the bear, put in, put on. They're working on some different directions with those pictures. And we're working on fine motor skills. To take off a picture, you need a good pincer grasp just to make sure that you're taking that picture off.
And strengthening too when you're using the Velcro to pull. You get a little bit of strengthening so you're promoting a tripod. Fine motor activity. So what we generally do is we're seated here at this point as a group, and I will generally show them an activity that we're going to use, and then we transition them to the table. And that's a little hard sometimes, so we have to make sure that they get to the table, get where they need to be for the next activity. At this point, our hope is that we've used some sensory things, we've used some motor things, we've engaged their core so that they're ready. It's part of that readiness to learn that we've talked about. So depending on our activity, it depends on what goals that we're working on. We can work on strengthening. We can have worked on strengthening, pulling those off. We may work on strengthening and opening something. We may work on a tripod grasp that they need. So we may work on holding a cotton ball because you have to hold it with these 3 fingers. We may work on eye-hand coordination, which sometimes goes into our games that we'll do together. We may work on bilateral activities for a student that needs to engage both hands or cross midline. It also promotes language stimulation because of the things we're talking about. We're going to demonstrate all this when it comes up so you'll see exactly what we mean.
So typically after that fine motor activity, then we move to a gross motor activity. The students have been sitting at the table for a while and doing some work, and now they're ready to get up and move again. So this is very often a game or something fun. So we're working on those gross motor skills. We're working on their balance, their coordination, their posture, strengthening, range of motion, core stability, all these great things. We can also incorporate some reciprocal play, which then incorporates some social skills. For instance, if they're throwing a ball with another peer, they're working on those gross motor ball skills, but then they're also working on sharing. They're working on engagement with those peers and their communication with that peer. So all of those things come into play. And then we're incorporating those language verbs as well. So throw, and we can incorporate their communication skills into that as well. And so they all work together for that student.
And finally, with our goodbye song, just like the hello song, we want to show them, okay, we have completed the spot lesson and we're working on greetings again. We're working on bye, bye friend, thank you for coming. So social interaction again, sensory coordination, we're terminating that task, and again, just interaction with others.
And I will say, routine is very important for a lot of our kids. And this helps with the routine. And by the time we're done, they know the routine. They know what's coming next and can tell you and also use the visuals.
All right, friends, are you ready to sing hello? All right, let me see those hands. Hello, hello.
And sometimes we may have to help some of our kids.
Hello, good morning. Good clapping.
Stretch them high. And again, we may have to lift some arms or prompt.
Or help them bend over.
Sometimes if you're in a wheelchair, we may have to turn the wheelchair around.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Hard. Stomp them hard. Again, if they're in a wheelchair, you may have to use their feet and do it. Up high, way high, way high. Turn around. Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello. This is sensory right there where we're clapping and stomping.
Very nice, friends. Good saying hello.
So inside that song, you can see that we can use some name recognition. You could say, hello, Candace, or I could say, hello, Stacy. And also the sensory part of that, and if you can adapt that different ways, if we need to help the students, if we need to lift their arms, if we need to stomp their feet, if they're in a wheelchair, we'll modify that also.
So then when we are done, we might say, oh, Stacy, will you take the hello song and say it's all done?
All done.
Very nice, Stacy. Stacy, what's next?
Next, we do our movement song.
Okay, let's do our movement song.
Find the Brown Bear rap on the album Shadooey Doo by Miss Nina.
Everybody needs a rap.
That's right, it's fun. Oh, if you're not having fun, they're not having fun. Do you see? Looking at me.
Again, you can engage your hands, fine motor. And sometimes you can even get down in position and do the frog. To see if you could swim. Again, engage the kids in this when you're doing it, involve them, show them what to do, point to their eyes, lift their feet. Woo.
Next is the adapted book. And so, like I said before, I adapt all of my books with textures, with pictures. So this is how we do this book. Oh, I want to tell you a few other things. I might have one student pick a picture off of my board, and as you can tell, my board is black for high contrast for my students with vision impairments. So they can take the picture off, they can participate in the book. I also have some of my students, they may participate in the book by using a Big Mac where they fill in the line.
What do you see?
So if you have a book with a repetitive line, that's a great way for them to participate in the story.
Also good motor activity. Just thought I'd put that in there.
Very true. And then some of our kids might be using a higher tech device where they can answer questions with it, or they can participate, or they can ask me a question. They can say something. They could say, I like that animal. I don't like that animal. So different language opportunities when you're doing adapted books. So let's get started. Brown bear, brown bear.
What do you see?
Nice talking. Oh, and then I might have one friend to help me and put brown bear on. Now this next animal, Julie, I want you to listen. Listen, this next animal flies in the sky and it has feathers and it says tweet, tweet, tweet.
Redbird.
That's right, red bird, red bird. What do you see?
What do you see?
Nice talking. And then you would just continue on with the entire book.
Okay, now we've moved on from our adapted book, and like we said, they were down on the floor typically in a circle, and we've moved them back to their tables to do our fine motor activity. I'm gonna insert here that the way we plan this is we may come up with a theme, we may come up with a book we like first, we may come up with an activity we like first, and we kind of work around that. You can do that in the classroom. You can figure out what your theme is. You can figure out what book you want to read and incorporate all of this even into your classroom. So now we would say, okay, we are finished with our book. Stacy, can you put that up for me? Put it in. And we're now going on to what, Candace? What are we doing next?
Art.
Okay, and we put art. It's fine motor, but we put art because that was the visual that we used. So we have animals that we have used in the book, and what we're going to do, we adapt it for different students. So Stacy may be my student that really can't grasp something small, so she's going to use something big. So Stacy, you want to show them what animal that you're making this time?
I have a duck.
So Stacy may use a duck to paint with. So if she may use the whole duck. We may be working on a tripod, so we're going to just grab his head. Stacy, can you paint the duck with the duck? Put it in the paint. Touch the duck. Nice job. More. Do more.
More.
Nice job.
painting.
Nice job. What color is that, Stacy?
Yellow duck.
Good job. And we can even use devices in that to choose a color, or it maybe they're learning their color, so it's also educational while we're doing fine motor. Next, Candace. Candace, tell me what animal you're going to make.
A bird.
What color do you think your bird is going to be? Do you remember from the story?
Red.
Red. So what I want you to do is I want you to use a feather. Now she's going to use a feather because it's got some texture to it. You're going to work on your tripod, your fine motor. So Candace, will you pinch that feather for me? Put it in the red paint and paint your bird. Back and forth. And in this you can use some pre-writing things. You can say go top to bottom. Can you go top to bottom? We can go side to side. And then we have different things we'll move on to. We can do the horse, the blue horse. And you can look at this several different ways. We could tear the paper. That also uses a good tripod. You've got to tear it. Or if somebody's working on scissor skills, we could use spring scissors, or we can use regular scissors, and they can cut pieces that we will put on the horse. You could use bubble wrap to do the frog. So you could even have them pop it beforehand. You could get some sensory in there if you need it beforehand. They could dip it in paint and put it on the frog. We can use a cotton ball. If we're going to paint the same thing, I could use a knobby brush for somebody that may need more help with grass. I can use a cotton ball, which is also working on a tripod, but a little bit bigger. We could even use a Q-tip and paint with the Q-tip. So we're also working on pre-handwriting skills in the middle of all this. So we can have a different animal for each child, and each child can do a different thing according to their needs.
Okay, so after we finish that fine motor activity or craft, we will move back to a movement activity to keep the kids engaged, keep them going. So Julie, can you take the craft and put it in? We are all done. Candace, what is next?
Movement.
So now we're going to do a movement game. So we really want to get all the kids up and involved in this. So you might go to the rug or to an area where they're all together. And then I'm going to say for this game, Candace, can you roll the die? Oh, and Candace rolled a blue horse. So now I'm going to have all of the kids gallop like a horse. So we're incorporating those gross motor activities into this and getting them moving around the classroom and keeping them engaged. So Candace and Julie, we're going to gallop like a horse. So then we're going to have the kids gallop around the room.
Again, you can help kids that may need some help. If they're in a wheelchair, you can kind of bump their wheelchair around.
What I love about this is when you have motor activities, you are also working on verbs. A lot of our kids know a ton of nouns. And nouns are great because, I mean, we see them every day. But verbs, that's how you get the phrases. That's how you get the actions. So I love that we can model swim with the fish and gallop with the horse. Like, I love having the action words because our kids don't usually get those modeled for them as much.
And they can say them with their devices or verbally or whatever works for them. And then we're going to practice sharing and taking turns. So I'm going to say, now Julie, it's your turn. Can you roll it?
And again, if it's somebody that can't, we may go behind them and hold onto their arms to let them throw it.
And so Julie got goldfish. So now we're going to swim like a fish. And again, we would have the whole group do that. Or you could also have them make a fishy face and practice moving those lips. So we're incorporating all of these skills together again with those social interactions and social skills. And we would move through until everybody gets a turn, and we're working together with and doing these activities with them. So we're all doing all of the motions with them as well.
Again, engaging them as much as possible with us in the middle of it.
And also with peers, because she could even say, Candace, give the dice to Julie. So we're giving it to a peer.
So with this motor activity, we've got their gross motor movements in, they're active, they're engaged, they're using those large muscle groups, and it's fun. We are all having a good time together as a group.
So now we are done with that movement game. See, we are all done movement. What is last, Stacy?
Goodbye song.
Okay, let me see you pat your legs. Are we ready? Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Hey, hey, hey. Goodbye. Na 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 na.
Again, you go around and
Na,
engage
na,
kids that
na,
can't do it on
na.
their own.
Hey, hey, hey. Goodbye.
Spot is all done. Spot is all done. We will do more next week.
And that's how we end our activity, and they know that's a finish, that's a close.
And with that song, again, we're working on closing the spot activity. We're working on saying goodbye, friends. When we're patting our legs, that's good motor. We're patting our legs, just doing that motor and following directions. We are closing out the activity, and we always have a great time. We're showing them that, hey, we'll see you again next week. So now we're going to show you some other lessons. We usually go along with the themes that the teachers do each week. So if they're doing a winter theme, we might choose a book like this one. There was a cold lady who swallowed some snow. And we use this book. Again, I adapt the book with pictures. I may make some pages for devices, but we use this and we do the same spot lesson or same spot template for these lessons.
We'll then do a movement song after that.
Right, that goes along with the same theme. And so it may incorporate different movements each week. And then we'll do a fine motor activity or craft.
For example, with this one, we may take some tape and we may tape a snowflake onto a piece of paper, and then we'll paint over that. Again, we can adapt that. We can differentiate that to what the child needs. It may be a knobby paintbrush. It may be a Q-tip. It may be a sponge. And we'll paint that, and then they have to pull it off, again, working at the tripod, and then you have a snowflake.
And then we'll incorporate a gross motor activity or game. So for this winter one, we threw snowballs. So these snowballs actually feel like snow and have some sensory input with them as well. And we took a stack of cups, so we're throwing at a target and the children are trying to knock the cups down. And so we're working on those gross motor skills. Another activity we did for winter is we did ice skating. So we took some paper plates and we put them under their feet and let them practice ice skating around the classroom. So everybody
Don't try that at home.
Everybody had a really good time with that. They did. It's harder than it sounds.
One of my favorite activities that we did with the snow was we played in snow. So we made snow. There's a snow that you can buy and you add water to it. And we played in the snow and they got to feel it, and it actually feels cold.
And we wrote letters in the snow, and that's something we didn't add to this. We have, as the years have gone on, we have adapted this and we do a letter with it. So if we are talking about snow, we may talk about an S. Is it straight? Is it curvy? Some pre-handwriting kind of things. We let them come to the board and write an S. Again, that's social skills too, because you can take the marker to the next person, turn taking, that kind of thing. But with the snow, you can write letters in it. So we put the snow out, we told them to write the letter S. We may have to help someone. They may have to just do straight lines or curvy lines. And so we adapt that to whatever fits the child.
But every week we start off with the same hello song and the same goodbye song. You don't have to use the same songs that we do. We just like those two songs, but they just help it to be consistent for the child. So they're a good intro, they know when it starts and they know when it ends. And it's just like we said, it's been fun, we love it, it's great working together, and it's a great time to work with the teachers to show them, look how you can incorporate this in the classroom.
So the teachers are working with the children as well. It's not just the therapists working with the children during these lessons. The teachers are there, they're involved, they're doing the dancing with us, they're doing the craft with us, and they're helping the children at the same time.
As well as the paraprofessionals. So everybody's learning what the goals are, and it's things you can incorporate in the classroom also.
Let's now talk about how teachers, you can use this in the classroom. So most teachers have a circle time. They may even call it a morning meeting. So when the kids are coming for circle time, this is a great time that you can incorporate some movement before they get started so that they are ready to learn, in a position to learn. You can do some following directions with some of these songs. You can have a visual schedule because that keeps them on task. You can also do the same songs, or you can have an adapted book during story time. You can make it interactive for them so that they are increasing their attention and focus.
So also the fine motor activities that we've talked about, teachers can use any of that in the classroom. I think the important thing is to figure out, you want to consult your therapist for sure, but if you know a child in your class has OT or has PT, ask questions. What can we do in the classroom to incorporate all of this? And we can modify things. We can tell you how, if you're going to do the snowflake that we just talked about, we can tell you how for the child that may need some adaptations, how to adapt that kind of thing. So it can go across the board. By observing us, you can kind of see that we adapt and we differentiate things, so it's not as overwhelming. So you can always ask your therapist questions about that for sure.
Yeah, the same thing when it comes to seating and positioning in the classroom. Certain children need specialized chairs or specialized seating that gives them more or less support. Feel free to contact your therapist about that and ask questions. We don't mind at all. We love when you come to us and ask those questions, because we want those children to be in that proper position so that they are ready to learn in the classroom each day. And so we're happy to help provide seating, help make accommodations as needed, and do those things that we can provide to help those children learn in the classroom.
And we are not asking you to become therapists. You already have a tremendous job if you're a teacher, for sure. Exceptional ed teachers often see what we do and know what we do, but sometimes because we don't always go into the classroom, the teachers may not know. So we would love to model some of this so you guys can use that in a classroom, a typical classroom. You can use it in the classrooms that we've talked about that may be called self-contained. They may be in a general ed classroom, it may be in a resource room. You can use those in a lot of different ways. We want you to use us as resources.
And don't forget about those communication devices. Let's not keep them on the shelf. They need to be available at all times, because communication happens all day long. Even if you're just modeling a few words for them during the activity, that is wonderful. We love that. So just remember to keep your therapist involved. We are here for you. So some other SPOT lessons that you can do. Here's just a few examples. So every fall we typically do a football theme just because it's fun. We like to tailgate, we wear our football shirts, we get a football, we do different things during this theme, and it's just a great time.
We're serious about football in Alabama.
We make a fan finger as a fine motor game, and they can use strengthening to staple, that kind of thing.
We often get outside and actually play football with the kids, so we practice throwing and catching. And if you have a student that's in a wheelchair or uses another mobility device such as a walker that may need assistance, we help them with that as well.
Another thing you can do during the football theme is a language and motor game. So just like I said before, when kids are doing these motor activities like throwing and catching, well, that's when we can work on our verbs. I love those verbs: throw, catch, kick, run. All of those things are great to model during football. So another time is in the fall is Halloween. So our kids love Halloween. They love to dress up in costumes. They may not call it Halloween. It might be a fall festival, which is completely fine. But we still do all kinds of fall fun games.
And in this, we want to make sure that they're sensory ready for Halloween. So when they put on costumes, that bothers a lot of children. So we'll want to get them to try it on, to touch different things, to be involved in that way. So that transitions to home.
So when we even practiced trick-or-treating at school, the kids dressed up and we took them around the school, so they got to practice walking, they got to practice doing stairs, and then they got to practice saying trick-or-treat, and they could do that verbally or they could do that with a device.
And as you can tell, I have all kinds of different devices and tools and communication systems. Some of my students might need to wear a bracelet. Some might need to wear a necklace. Some might use the Big Mac, the one switch or this one word device. Some will use their buckets and they'll have language on their buckets. Some buckets are high contrast if they have vision impairments. So we just use a variety of different ways to help them to be involved during trick-or-treating.
And you have to think about too, when you get a piece of candy, you put it in their hand, some can grasp it, some may not, some may just dump it in. We may also use the term put in because we're working on following directions there also.
And it's just so inclusive for them because they get to see other kids in the school, other staff and faculty, and it's just fun. Another activity is 100 Days of School. A lot of schools celebrate that just because once you've been in school 100 days, that's a good milestone. So we like to celebrate it. I usually create a book for that. I will have the kids' pictures in the book just because kids love to see themselves. And then I'll have some sort of item there where they can touch. It's usually like it could be a hard rock. We can work on different adjectives with that. Ooh, this one's hard, this one's soft. But I usually like to create a book with their pictures just so they can say their name. Oh, what's your name? Who is this? We can answer some who questions, different things.
Then I will typically take a poster with 100 stickers. So each kid gets to put on stickers and they'll put them on, then we cut it apart and put it together as a puzzle. So then we're working on some visual perceptual skills, which we haven't talked a lot about. But they have to figure out, they have to do a lot of motor planning to figure out how to put that back together.
And for our movement game, we could do 100 different movements. So for this one, we might do 10 jumping jacks, and then 10 kicks, and then 10 times marching in place, and whatever movement you want to do. And we can even incorporate a song with that to get them some sensory stimulation as well with the movements.
Another activity is Mardi Gras. We have a great time with Mardi Gras at our school. We have Mardi Gras parades. Of course, we have shirts. We do different things during Mardi Gras.
So a lot of times you can take the beads and you can make letters with the beads. So you put them out and move the beads around to form a letter. You could paint with the beads. Sometimes just the texture of the beads that make sounds. We can make masks for Mardi Gras. They could put stickers and feathers and all kinds of things on them using glue. Bilateral activities, you use both hands. And then we typically do a parade.
Yeah, so for the parade, we can practice marching, walking, running. If our students are in walkers, they practice using those or any other assistive device they might have. If you have a student that's in a wheelchair, they might need some assistance to push the wheelchair, propel it. And then they get social interaction with the other kids. We incorporate the other staff members and the other students, and we have them, you know, throwing beads to them, or the students throwing beads or candy to our students. So it's a lot of fun for everybody. Everybody gets involved, and it's a good time.
Very inclusive.
So I love this quote. It says, "Alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much." And it's by Helen Keller. And I love that because, sure, I can come in and work with a child for speech. You know, Stacy can come in and do some motor activities. Julie can do fine motor and sensory. The teachers already know what they're doing. They're doing their educational lessons, working on different academics. But if we work together, if they share their themes with us, we can incorporate that in our lessons. We can show them what we're working on and ways that they can help to improve their goals. And when we do it together, it really benefits the child so much, and it benefits us, and it benefits the teachers as well.
And we also learn from teachers. We know what things they're working on. If it's colors in kindergarten, whatever, we can incorporate that into our lessons too. So it's kind of a learning process for all of us.
And it's great for our students because then they generalize. They carry over those skills, and they're more likely to learn it.
Yeah, if it means more to them, then they're more likely to do it and use that in the classroom and outside the classroom.
And also, if the teacher's been engaged with that, they're more likely to use that in the classroom. So it's kind of a win-win all the way around.
So that is why collaborating hits the spot.
Hi, I'm Ashley with Accessing Potential Through Assistive Technology, APT for short. We are a program of the Alabama Department of Rehabilitation Services focused on helping people with disabilities reach their aptitudes and abilities through assistive technology. We provide services such as device demonstrations to assist individuals and their support staff with comparing features of assistive technology to make the best choice for their needs. Our partners across the state provide gently used durable medical equipment that can be acquired at no cost to the individual. We work closely with organizations to provide in-depth training to increase knowledge of assistive technology. In fact, you can request training for your team, school, or school system to support your AT goals. And finally, we offer a lending library to allow individuals to borrow assistive technology tools for 30 days for trial purposes, temporary accommodations while devices are being funded or repaired, or for professional development. We are working closely with the Alabama State Department of Education, Special Education Services, to ensure our lending library is filled with tools you can utilize for your students with disabilities. You can access our lending library by visiting al.atforall.com.
Hello. As a member of the Alabama State Department of Education Special Education Services, I would like to thank you all for engaging in this module on assistive technology. As we conclude, I want to express my appreciation for your commitment to enhancing accessibility in education. The tools and strategies discussed here are pivotal in ensuring that every student has the support they need to succeed. Your dedication to learning and implementing these strategies is instrumental in creating a level playing field for our students with disabilities. As we move forward, I encourage you to continue exploring new advancements in assistive technologies and integrating them effectively into your classroom practices. Together, we can make meaningful strides, ensuring that students with disabilities are able to fully engage in the classroom and beyond. Thank you again for your participation and contributions. Let's keep working towards our future where every learner can thrive.